Have you ever thought about how a single star can get so bright that they end up defining an entire nation? Well, for Greece in the 20th century, that star was Aliki Vougiouklaki. Today, we're going to unpack the story of a true phenomenon and figure out how she became something so much more than an actress, how she became an icon. Early on in her career, she got a title that would stick with her forever: the National Star of Greece. And this wasn't just some clever marketing line from a studio. Oh no. This was a title the public gave her. It really showed the incredibly powerful connection she had with the whole country. So that's the big question we're going to explore, right? How does one person, one performer, get so woven into the cultural fabric of a country that she basically embodies the hopes and dreams of a whole generation? Let's dive in and find out. Okay, so our story kicks off with her just unbelievably quick rise from a drama student to a name that everybody knew. Let's take a look at just how fast it all happened. Her climb to the top was, it was meteoric. Look at this timeline. She graduates from a top drama school in '52, and by the mid-'50s, boom, she's a leading lady. Then, by 1960, we're talking less than a decade later, she's winning Greece's biggest acting award. That kind of speed is it's almost unheard of. And that award-winning role? It was for the film Madalena. And you gotta understand, this wasn't just another trophy to put on a shelf. This was basically her coronation. This was the moment Aliki went from being a really popular actress to the absolute, undisputed queen of Greek cinema. But look, that kind of success doesn't just happen out of thin air. All through the '50s, she was building this amazing bond with her audience in movies just like these. Every film wasn't just another role for her. It was like she was laying another brick in the foundation of the public's total adoration. And that foundation she built, it launched her into the 1960s, a decade where her fame just exploded to a whole new level. It was the golden age of Greek movies, and Aliki Vougiouklaki, well, she was the sun everything revolved around. And I am not exaggerating here. In the '60s, if you saw her name on a movie poster, that was it. It was a guaranteed smash hit. She wasn't just a part of the industry, she was the engine that made the whole thing run, starring in the biggest box office hits the country had ever seen. And you really can't talk about Aliki's peak without talking about Dimitris Papamahayil. Their on-screen chemistry was electric, creating the most successful film couple in the history of Greece. But what really got everyone hooked was their real-life marriage. The line between the movies and reality just got completely blurry, and their films felt like the next chapter in a national fairy tale. And this partnership, it produced some of the decade's absolute biggest blockbusters. Movies like Aliki in the Navy and The Teacher with the Blonde Hair. These weren't just movies people went to see. They were national events that totally captured everyone's imagination. But you know how it is. That golden age couldn't last forever. As the 1970s started, the Greek film industry began to change. And Aliki, well, she found herself at a really critical turning point in her career. This is the ultimate challenge for any superstar, right? When the world that made you famous starts to fade away, what do? Do you just fade away with it, or do you find a new way to shine? Aliki chose to reinvent herself. As the film industry started to struggle, she didn't retreat. No way. Instead, she made this absolutely brilliant pivot, going back to her first love and the very foundation of her craft, the theater. And she didn't just return to the theater, she totally transformed it. She almost single-handedly brought the big, splashy Broadway-style musical to Greece, staging these huge hits. This just proved her star power had nothing to do with a movie camera. Aliki could draw a massive crowd absolutely anywhere. So all of this brings us to her legacy. How do we make sense of her lasting impact? And what does it really tell us about that unique bond she had with the Greek people? What's really fascinating is this kind of contrast in how she was viewed. While the public's love for her was just absolute and never-ending, some critics had their reservations. They knew she was talented, for sure, but they also pointed to her on-screen mannerisms and character types as being a little predictable sometimes. But in the end, her legacy went way beyond what the critics thought. She became more than an actress. She became an idol. She was the symbol of an entire post-war era in Greece, a time that people remember for its optimism, for its youth, and its innocence. And that, right there, is the key. She wasn't just famous, she was an idol. It's like she held up a mirror to Greece and reflected back the version of itself the country wanted to see: joyful, full of life, and optimistic. She really did embody the spirit of the age. So, what really makes an icon? Aliki Vougiouklaki's story seems to suggest it's that perfect storm of incredible talent, being in the right place at the right time, and having that rare, almost magical ability to become the perfect reflection of a nation's soul.